Welcome to MSUA's Game Changers Live, where we speak with satellite and mobile connectivity thought leaders about industry trends, new technologies, and share what you need to know about where satellite technology is headed in the future. I'm your host, Lisa Dreher, and I'm really excited to introduce our guest today, Elias Naffah. He is the NASA Glenn Research Center's CSP Formulation Manager. Welcome to the show, Eli.
Thanks, Lisa. It's nice to be here.
Thank you so much for making time to be here with us today. Maybe we can begin by just having you give us a little bit of background on yourself and NASA's CSP program.
Sure. So CSP stands for the Communication Services Project. It's a new project that NASA established to really look at commercial services for near-Earth missions. And so it's part of the overall commercialization of near-Earth space that NASA is engaging in. So currently, NASA owns and operates our communications and navigation systems. And so the goal is to really get out of the business of owning and operating those communication systems and utilize the much higher investment in the private sector now, and leverage that so that we can be one of many buyers for commercial services to our spacecraft and to our missions. So I'm the project manager for CSP, and as you said, I'm at Glenn Research Center, which is in Cleveland, Ohio, and we're in the beginning stages now of our phase 2 effort. So we have a 3-phase effort. One was to identify our needs and goals, and understand what the missions need at NASA, and then really understand and quantify the capabilities out there that are in industry. And so we've completed that first phase where we've determined that we need to do some demonstrations of capability. So there are some gaps for service to spacecraft that we've seen, and so what we're looking to do is work with industry, partner with industry to develop those capabilities that are needed to provide services to spacecraft, for example, and then do a flight demonstration in space that basically demonstrates the commercial capability for our missions, and really demonstrates an end-to-end capability that really could be turned into a service, a commercial offering where NASA is not the only customer, but one of many customers. So we're about to enter into that second phase. Once we've completed the demonstration sufficiently, we'll be looking to then start to acquire commercial services for the NASA missions. So I don't know if that answers the question. My background is I've been with NASA forever, for a very long time. I worked at Kennedy Space Center, NASA headquarters, and Glenn Research Center. Before this, I worked with the Space Communications and Navigation program at Glenn Research Center for a lot of the architecture work that went into this and some of the technology development areas. And prior to that, worked on the Orion program, and also worked in the Science Mission Directorate as a deputy chief engineer. So I go all the way back to the shuttle days and developing experiments and putting them into the space lab that ultimately became experiments that went into space station. So been around for a long time.
Wow, what an amazing career, and what an exciting program for you to be working on as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we invited you here today to talk a little bit about where you see the future of satellite industry going, and how NASA is really looking at at those advancements and changes that are happening in the industry and what you're looking for. So maybe we can start by having you just talk a little bit about what you believe are the most important roles that the satellite services will play in the future and in supporting NASA's goals for the longer term.
Sure. When we started with, our current, we have a constellation of relays now that provide the continuous coverage that we need for human space flight and also for many other purposes. And so we basically have 3 networks at NASA now that really developed with the missions. The Deep Space Network, which is, for the planetary missions, the Space Network, which is what I talked about, the constellation of relays in geosynchronous orbit that provide continuous service, mainly developed for the shuttle program, and the Near Earth Network, which very much involved with the Earth observation type missions and the science missions in Near Earth. And so the idea here right now, we're just focused on Near Earth. So we're really looking at, in particular, what the TDRS network provides for us. That's a tracking data and relay satellite system, which is operated out of Goddard Space Flight Center. And we launched our last TDRS and became operational in 2017. So we don't intend to launch anymore at this point. And eventually that capability, which is our space network capability, will begin to decline as we retire the spacecraft. So we have a little bit of a runway here to make sure that we understand what commercial capabilities are out there, how much they're going to cost, and really kind of what the changes we need to make to our missions in order to be able to utilize those services. But back in when we created the space network, it was back in the 1980s, and at that time, there were very few commercial geosynchronous relays of any kind in orbit, and I think it was maybe 6 with no more than 500 transponders. But I think, and a lot of this is due to NASA. NASA had an ACT satellite, Advanced Communication Technology satellite, which really kind of opened up the Ka band and the broadband capabilities and some of the onboard processing that we see today. And really it kind of led to, and we don't like to say the word explosion in NASA, but I don't know a better word, but the level of investment by industry and the level of business out there is really far out surpassed NASA at this point. And so we believe that there's enough infrastructure out there, a significant infrastructure out there, and a significant capability. And there's no reason for us to continue to do our unique services for our missions. So the idea is for us to partner with industry and in this next phase to really develop those capabilities and develop those markets. And then once we've done that and demonstrated it sufficiently, then go out and begin the transition to commercial services and eventually wean ourselves off of our infrastructure.
Wow. So that is a huge change. What do you see happening over the next, 12 to 36 months in terms of using those commercial satellite services as it relates to NASA?
Well, as it relates to NASA, we're going to be going out probably within the next, with this month sometime would be my guess, with an announcement of an opportunity to partner. And to do some flight demonstrations of capability. And in that announcement, we've identified reference use cases and what it is that at least NASA currently does as far as communications, navigation services to our missions. And really kind of give industry a blank sheet of paper here to come back and many of your members are probably very interested in this, to come back and say, all right, these are based on our interests and our capabilities. These are the types of capabilities and services we would like to provide. And we would like to invest with industry in developing that capability and in developing that business model, so that within a few years, that service could be offered commercially.
That's great. Can you talk at all about any of those use cases, maybe at a high level?
Yeah, we've identified basically 6 use cases. Okay. There are some, things that are probably getting some commercial services now. Some of them are really kind of in the terrestrial domain, like the high altitude balloons and aircraft. I mean, those are things that are commercially available now, potentially. But then there's the launch and early operations phase, which are short duration, could involve commercial crew or cargo to ISS, like 11 to 14 missions per year. These are lower data rate, needs. But then there's also the launch support, the support to the launch vehicle. There's the loaded data rate return routine missions, which these are longer duration. It's mainly the TT&C, the telemetry tracking and telemetry and control part of the mission. And then there's the high data rate routine missions. So this is return of the science data, and these are typically long duration missions. And then the ability to operate in any of these regimes on a contingency. So if there was an emergency or if something happened. One of the challenges I think that we have is that NASA, unlike for terrestrial missions where you can switch out radios, even on an aircraft, you can switch out a radio. Once we are flying a robotic mission, in orbit, we won't be able to change the radio out. So how do you provide robust, reliable, cost-effective service that could go for extended missions of 15 years or more? Okay, and then how do you build flexibility into that? So one of the gaps that we see probably is on the terminal side, for a spacecraft or a launch vehicle. Do we have the terminals really that will operate in the commercial frequencies? I mean, if we're going to leverage the existing infrastructure that's out there today, that's operating in fixed service bands or mobile service bands. There really isn't an allocation there for space to space. And so there's the spectrum regulatory issues and the WRC treaty level things that we need to do in addition to the technical work. But our goal initially with these initial sets of demonstrations is really not to push the state of the art in technology. It's really to use what's available today, okay, and adapt that to a space-based user.
Sure. Are you looking at or considering what, I don't know, redundancy and safety and security play, what roles those aspects play into these services as well?
Absolutely. And so what we're trying to do in developing the capability and then demonstrating it on orbit is to make sure it's an end-to-end demonstration of an operational capability and not really a technology demonstration. So things like security really have to be taken into account in the demonstration. And obviously that's a big deal for NASA, as we've been hacked before, okay? And so we have provided, we will provide in the announcement, some basic questions that need to be answered and some understanding of the applicability of security requirements currently to NASA missions. But I think industry is equally as worried about security as we are, and so looking for the security, for example, and safety and reliability to really kind of be baked in to the solutions that are brought to us by industry. We'd be surprised if they aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there other criteria that you're looking at in terms of the satellite services that you would be considering for this program?
Sure. The whole aspect, of an end-to-end service. So there's the service planning aspect, the scheduling. Currently our scheduling isn't automated, and so there's long lead times to scheduling assets typically. Okay, and I know industry doesn't do that as much as we do, and so we're hoping that there will be some improvements, some autonomy that's brought in as well. So, and then an ability to address the spectrum regulatory concerns and a plan to do that. So really, if you think about and testing, for example, compatibility testing, if that's necessary, certification of the radios and that kind of thing. So really, we're talking about, from soup to nuts, everything that you need to be able to provide an end-to-end service to a user. And so we're really kind of defining two interfaces here for the demonstrations. One is at the spacecraft, and the other is at the Mission Operations Center, and everything in between, and all that's needed to make that service happen between the Mission Operations Center and the spacecraft. We're leaving that up to our industry partners to tell us how they want to do it. We're going to be agnostic on orbits, data pathways, what RF or optical, solutions you have, what spectrum you want. It's really going to be based on your business case or industry's business case, and what they think they can provide and what they think they can sell for profit.
Sure, sure. And I guess, talking about the commercialization of just the entire industry, how important is that for your organization that these solutions be, I guess, not just a NASA solution, but more a commercial offering?
And so, well, first of all, if we wanted to go out today and specify a NASA solution, we know industry can come back and do it. They already have done it for us, and we'll basically have something like TDRS. We'll have something that we've specified. It's NASA unique, and then we'll have the costs of maintaining that. So we know that capability is out there. What we don't know is if there's a market for these types of services where we won't have to maintain that infrastructure, where companies that we're buying from are maintaining that infrastructure for their own purposes, for the purposes of other customers, and then we can share in that. And so that's critically important to what we're trying to do at CSP. And really, we're gambling here that this is going to work because we, are going to start having diminished capability probably around middle of the decade. So, we're kind of all in on industry being able to do this for us, and of course, there's a little bit of pressure there. Okay, and certainly if it's not possible, then we will look at other ways of getting the services. But right now, I think we've demonstrated some even more difficult commercial capabilities that we're now buying as commercial services with the resupply, the cargo resupply. So and now commercial crew. So I think if industry can provide those services to us, we're way farther ahead on the comm side. I think industry can provide comm services, but our missions are risk averse. Okay, and they they want an assured capability. And so part of the demonstrations is to demonstrate to our missions that an assured capability can be provided. And,
Sure.
to demonstrate, we don't know what the cost of those missions are. We certainly would like to be able to realize a cost savings in the long run in being able to do this. So there are some unknowns and there's some work to be done, but we do think that we can get it done in the next few years.
Great. Wow. I'm just so excited to watch everything that happens with the CSP program. Gosh, I want to thank you so much for being here today to share your insights and share a little bit more about the program with us. Is there anything that we missed that we should make sure that folks out there know?
I think we're pretty well publicized. I think the key thing is that we joined MSUA really to be able to reach out to part of the industry here, and to really, as we said, we want to partner with you. And so, we're not trying to dictate anything here. We're trying to understand what capabilities you have and what your interests are. And I think the important thing that to note is that as we do this transition and make this change, we know that the NASA missions are going to have to change their operational paradigms to adjust to commercial services. And so we're committed to making sure that if that's possible, that happens.
That's great. Well, again, thank you so much for making time in your busy schedule for us today. And we're really excited to hear about the program. We're hoping that you'll come back and visit with us again in the future.
Most definitely. And I look forward to engaging in the MSUA activities and the conference coming forward, and awards dinner that you're going to have, and meeting the members, and really beginning the dialogue. So we look forward to that. And thank you, Lisa.
Great. Well, we are so pleased to have the NASA CSP on our membership now, and look forward to having your input as well on what MSUA can do to further serve our members. And I also just want to take a moment to thank the MSUA, the Mobile Satellite Users Association, for hosting these sessions. If you would like to learn how to become a guest on Game Changers Live, how to receive the MSUA newsletter, or how to become a member of the MSUA, be sure to visit msua.org. And we'll see you next time on MSUA Game Changers Live.